we can hear you.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Dr. Sonia, you can start with your brief remarks and then your welcome remarks. Then I'll take a lead after that. Thank you.
Yes, we're currently waiting for the attendees to stabilize, and then we will switch off the screen here, the first slide, and then I'll start with a welcome. And for everyone who is already in this web talk, already welcome to you, of course. Okay, I think we can start. Perfect. Hello and welcome to today's event. My name is Sonja Amend and I'm excited to welcome you all on behalf of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. A warm welcome as well to our speakers and guests today, who you can all already see on screen here, but will be introduced by our moderator later on. Because first, I'd like to say a few words about the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, especially for those of you joining one of our events for the first time. We at the Friedrich Naumann Foundation are a liberal-oriented foundation, strongly committed to promoting the values of freedom and responsibility in society. And we do that through various formats, such as today's political education events, web talks, as well as seminars, workshops, panel discussions, all kinds of events. And our work spans across the globe, covering a wide range of topics that you can also see on our website, freiheit.org. Today, we are looking at the BRICS coalition in light of the upcoming summit in Kazan. And as one of the founding members, India plays an important role in shaping the discussions there. And with this web talk here, we also want to explore what India's primary strategic interests are and more. And for the first part of this web talk, I'll first hand it over to Bipin Gimir.
Thank you, Dr. Sonia Amend, for the opening remarks. Esteemed panelists and dear participants, welcome to the webinar on BRICS Summit in Kazan, India's agenda. Once again, my name is Dr. Bipin Gimre, working as a regional political analyst at the foundation. I'll be your moderator or maybe an MC today for this webinar. To set the base for today's discussion on BRICS, we have requested Professor Dr. Thomas Straber, a member of FNF Board of Trustees, as well as a professor at the Hamburg University, Germany, to address this session. He has been kind enough to send a recorded message for this webinar. We would like to play this video first, and then I'll request my colleague to please play the video.
A very warm welcome to the webinar on BRICS Summit in Kazan, India's agenda, organized by the Friedrich Naumann Foundation and the State Office of Baden-Württemberg. My name is Thomas Straubhaar. I'm a professor with Hamburg University and a board member of the Board of Trustees with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. I think this webinar is both. It is timely and relevant. Timely, of course, because the summit will start next week. And it is relevant because we see a kind of shift in the world order, because the old world order that has probably started after World War II and has lasted till the end of the Obama administration in the United States was characterized by multilateralism. Multilateralism means that each country has the same voting power independent of its size or economic performance or population. In the system of multilateralism, the power of law is the dominant criteria. And it leads somehow to the fact that big countries become smaller and smaller countries become bigger due to the fact that each country is treated the same. After probably the handover to Donald Trump in 2017 as the new American president at that time, we see a shift towards a kind of return of nationalism. Return of nationalism means that the law of power substitutes the power of law. And as an outcome, we see a kind of multipolar instead of a multilateral world order. And therefore, the question becomes important: to which pole do you belong as a single country? And that is probably the starting point of BRICS as a dominant or a new dominant factor in the world order. The BRICS country, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, somehow account for about 1/4 of world GDP and 40% of world population. And so it could become a kind of pole against the leading members of the old world economic order, probably characterized by the G7, by the United States, Canada, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany, France, and Italy. And somehow the BRICS could become a counterpart to this old, liberal, Western-driven world economic order. And of course, now the question is, are there some common grounds, or do the different lines dominate the Kazan summit that will start next week? If we look at the common grounds, we may probably see 2 points. One is, of course, becoming important, becoming less dependent on Western market power and having a chance to really somehow stay for about 40 or in the future almost half of world population. And the second point is there a chance for the BRICS country together to somehow enforce regulations in the world economic order according to economic, environmental, and social dimensions of development? Somehow, is it possible to enforce an adjusted and extended United Nations Agenda 2030? If we look at the different lines, we may also probably see 2 points. One is that within the BRICS community, we see very heterogeneous national interests due to the fact that economic development differ and economic structures differ. And second, with regard to agricultural products and raw materials, sometimes the BRICS countries compete so in the demand side and also in the supply side, meaning that somehow they are rather competitors than cooperators. So having this 2, let's say, different options to the BRICS summit, one the common grounds and the other the different lines, we may address within a seminar like this some very interesting questions. I would just like to focus on 3. One is, what can be the primary strategic goals for the summit? Second, will the inclusion of new members like Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran probably strengthen or weaken the BRICS strategy? And third, will indeed the BRICS country offer an alternative to the old liberal world order? So you can see there are plenty of interesting questions to discuss within this seminar or this webinar. So I wish you to find answers, creative, innovative answers to this very broad and heterogeneous board of questions. I hope that you will find innovative answers, and I wish you all the best, and of course also fun to participate on this webinar. And I thank you for participating and wish you a very successful webinar on the Kazan Summit of the BRICS system and India's agenda. Have fun.
Thank you. We seriously appreciate our sincere thanks. We express our sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Shravar for his insightful video remarks highlighting the importance of understanding of BRICS and the upcoming BRICS Summit in Russia. To continue the event further now, let me introduce our moderator, Ms. Janvi Tripathi. Ms. Janvi Tripathi is an associate fellow with the Observer Research Foundation, New Delhi. She served as a coordinator for the Think 20 India Secretariat during India's G20 presidency in 2023. She currently serves on the International Advisory Board, Secretariat of Think 20 Brazil. Her research include international trade policy, issues like gender and trade, and WTO reforms. It is great having you as a moderator today here. Now, I would like to hand over the floor to you to introduce our esteemed panelists and to lead the discussion for another 45 minutes. Ms. Tripathi, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, and welcome to this discussion to all the participants who've joined online, and of course, our esteemed guests. Ms. Ruchita Berry is here. She is Senior Fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation and an expert on India's relations with Africa and Latin America. We also have Professor Eduardo Viola joining us from Brazil. He is Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for Advanced Studies, University of Sao Paulo, and also a professor at the SI, the School of International Relations at FGV Sao Paulo, amongst other designations. And Dr. Rishi Gupta is here, Assistant Director at the Asia Society Policy Institute, who works in the areas of diplomacy and geopolitics. So without further ado, I would like to start us off by asking something that's been at least on my mind as we move towards the Kazan Summit and in terms of India's priorities. What has BRICS expansion meant for reordering the multilateral system? Does the new BRICS remain like a subset to multilateralism, or is it gearing to replace the old order? It's also a sentiment that Professor Strawbar expressed. So let me start with you, Ms. Berry. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Janvi, for that very pertinent question. And I'd also like to thank the organizers for inviting me for this very timely webinar on BRICS. So the leaders of BRICS, that is the BRICS Plus, will be meeting in Kazan, Russia next week for the 16th summit. BRICS will welcome the new members, which is Ethiopia, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. I do feel that the expansion has magnified the significance of BRICS. The BRICS grouping now represents 35% of the world's GDP, 40% of the world trade, 44% of the oil and gas reserves, and 26% of the world landmass. So it is an important forum, and that's maybe one of the reasons why, in terms of what it is representing, and that's why there are new aspirants wanting to join this forum. But now coming to your question as to whether it implies a change in, does the expansion represents reordering of the multilateral system for BRICS, or does it remain, the BRICS remain a subset of multilateralism? I feel that if you look at the BRICS, statements at the end of the summit statements, which the BRICS have been, issuing, that shows that BRICS vision is not for forging an alternate order. That is what I feel. And it is in terms of reforming the current multilateral system. And a clear vision of that comes from the joint statement of the foreign minister of BRICS, who met earlier this year in June in Russia. And I would like to read out from this statement, and it says that BRICS calls for a more agile, effective, efficient, responsive, representative, legitimate, accountable international multilateral system, which should lead to greater and more meaningful participation from the developing countries, especially from Africa, in a global decision-making process and structures, and make them better attuned to the contemporary reality. So I feel the BRICS members nations are unhappy with the long drawn bias against the global south and want to reform the current order. And BRICS offers a platform to the global south that really matters. It serves as a point of attraction to the aspirants and to the new members. So that's my view, that the expanded BRICS seeks to reform and does not want to replace the current global order.
Thank you very much. It's very, very insightful. Professor Viola, if I could come to you at this stage, the Brazil has had a successful run as the G20 president this year. They will be taking over the BRICS presidency next year. What are your views on this, how expansion is going to be impacting the BRICS, and what are the expectations from Kazan? You are on mute, sir, if you could unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. In my view, the BRICS has fundamental contradictions within. So first of all, it's not the driver of a new order. There is a transformation of the global order, but the BRICS is not the driver. Why? Because the BRICS had within this deep contradiction. In my view, the deep contradiction of the BRICS is the following. There are in the BRICS a major division between two powers, Russia and China, that are autocratic powers. So they need to change the global liberal order in order to question and undermine and possibly eliminate democratic regimes. Okay, and there are the other three members that are democratic powers: India, Brazil, and South Africa. Okay, and their interests for sure are different. And their position, I mean, we can say that China and Russia are northern powers, meaning they are between high income and high middle income countries. That Brazil is also that, but Brazil is a democratic power. So in my view, what we are in the transformation of the global order, but it's not. There is erosion of multilateralism, okay, an emerging of multipolarity. But the BRICS is not a coalition pole of a new global order because of the fracture of economic interest and the fracture in terms of values. Okay, so this is the view of this is my view as an academic, but I need to say that there are in Brazil two major views of BRICS. One view that is the government that is really strengthening the BRICS and questioning the global liberal order, and a view that the China is it will be the new center of the global order. Huh? And for this view, democracy is not but democratic values is not a key issue of Brazil in the world. And from the other view that I share, and is much more in the opposition today, but also in some of the parties present in the coalition government, in which the BRICS is something that is very complex, and particularly there are dimensions of the Chinese-Russian interest in the BRICS, that is because of they are autocratic powers that are in steep contradiction with Brazil as being a democracy, and this being key of the profile of Brazil in the world.
Thank you very much, Professor Wala. A very rare insight, which we don't usually get into Brazil's opinion of the BRICS. Dr. Gupta, coming to you, let's come back to the original thought on BRICS cooperation, right? How does the BRICS manage to function? So I'm targeting you with two questions. One is, of course, the expansion question and where India falls. And secondly, given these contradictions within BRICS, how does it continue to function? How are we still having these conversations? How is expansion functioning then if BRICS is so internally contradictory?
Thank you, Janvi. And it's really interesting to listen to my co-panelists. Really different arguments at the same time gives me a lot of thoughts to actually pitch in my ideas. So I would say when we think of BRICS, I think and especially the BRICS Summit in Kazan, I think it's very important to look at the theme of this year's summit, and that is strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security. And I think we need to emphasize on the word just, and that is looking towards inclusivity. Considering what has happened with the West-dominated multilateral platforms, I think there is a requirement that we need to have alternate platforms where we can echo the voices of countries of the global south. And I think Dr. Beri rightly said that it is not to challenge the existing system. It is actually to reform. And also it's kind of a strong message that, this is the opportune time that there are multiple power bases across, multiple power poles across the world. And each country deserves a single right. Each country has a fundamental way of getting that inclusiveness into the financial systems that have primarily been dominated. And we need not to forget that the emergence of, BRICS was primarily a counter to G7. So certainly we are moving somewhere, but in a systematic way today, I would say. And then coming back to if it is a subset to multilateralism, or is it going to replace the older order? I would say it's going to reform, and it is also pushing the existing order to reform in a way that countries of the global south are heard. For example, also on the question of contradictions, I would say, in terms when we look at the economic aspect of it, there are opportunities where consumer markets are there, where markets like which are producing, like China. At the same time, we have opportunities like in the agriculture sector, where certain countries have the economic might to do certain kind of technological developments. At the same time, they also have a way of expanding on the, I would say, for example, India has certain qualities in producing or mass production of the in terms of agriculture produce. At the same time, I think this is the opportune time that these countries, for example, India and Brazil, come together to upend the task of agricultural advancement. So I'll stop here. I'll answer the questions. Thank you.
Dr. Gupta, just follow up on your statements right now. What are the issues that you think the BRICS is uniquely placed to address vis-a-vis other multilateral groupings? You've touched on a few of them, agriculture and others. Where do you think BRICS is different from other multilateral institutions? Specific issues.
So I'll take 3 points, very categorical ones. I think BRICS has the capacity to promote inclusiveness and open dialogue. And I think from Indian perspective, I would say India is well placed to carry forward that. And in this regard, I would say by advocating for an open and inclusive dialogue, India can mediate conflicts and encourage collaborative approaches to global challenges. This can also help bridge bilateral differences and ensure that all voices are heard. Second would be to emphasize on multilateralism and a rules-based order. I think we are hearing a lot of buzz around Indo-Pacific in terms of strategic on the strategic front that we need a rules-based order. But I think in a world where so much of disparity is there, I think there is a requirement of rules-based order as well. So India's emphasis on a rules-based order, international order, and multilateral positions it well to bridge gaps within BRICS, and by promoting these principles, India can ensure that the group's engagements remain constructive and focused on the common goals. And lastly, I would say leverage diplomatic successes. India's recent presidency of the G20 has demonstrated its ability to promote consensus and collaboration among diverse member states. And I think applying this experience to BRICS, India can continue to mediate and foster unity. For example, during the BRICS Summit in 2023, Prime Minister Modi played a pivotal role in advocating for the BRICS expansion and consensus building among member states. And don't forget, this time, I think there are more than 32 applications for BRICS membership. So it shows that there is a consensus, there is an understanding that we require, or the countries of the global south, as well as emerging economies, require a platform which is, which can be inclusive, at the same time, which can also be part of the existing system, not, I would say, challenging it, but questioning or forcing it to reform itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Professor Viola, we've heard a view that development concerns are a key part of BRICS cooperation, right? And you've done extensive work in the area of climate change issues and implications for all our countries growing in that direction. Do you think the BRICS can do something differently when it comes to, say, mobilizing the private sector for financing climate concerns? Is there a special role for IPSA that you see for India, Brazil, and South Africa? Or what can we expect on that sort of issue when it comes to the upcoming summit in Kazan, just to keep the focus on development and our common futures up to 2030?
Okay. Well, again, the BRICS, there are very different profiles in terms of carbon intensity of the economies. Brazil is clearly a middle carbon intensity economy. Okay, South Africa, China, Russia, and India are high carbon intensive economies. This is a major fracture that is not very explicit in BRICS, but when we come to the global order and coalitions, if the focus is climate and energy, this is extremely relevant. Okay, so for example, in terms of energy carbon intensity of the economies, Brazil is very different from most of the world, though there are Northern European countries are similar to Brazil. They are much more decarbonized economies, not at the level of Brazil. The major problem of Brazil with carbon is related to deforestation in the Amazon particularly, not in relation to the energy matrix, okay? So I think in any case, there is a lot of potential of cooperation within the BRICS, but not as a cooperation that is alternative to northern countries, let's say, okay? So, for example, China is very important in deploying renewable energy all over the world, okay? But at the same time, the strong subsidies of China to their low carbon energy industries is a major problem for the other countries that in many cases need to put tariffs in order to protect their industries. So this is very interesting.
So it brings us back to the idea that there are contradictions within BRICS, but there is scope for cooperation. I will go in the optimistic direction.
In this area, there is, for sure.
Great. Thank you, Professor Viola. Ms. Berry, if I can come back to you. You have been proactively following India's Africa outreach, Latin America outreach. India has been keen on having, say, the AU join the G20 joining the G20 during the Indian presidency. It's been pushing for greater cooperation with the African continent. Is participation in the BRICS a more efficient way, you think, for African countries to express themselves in multilateral settings? And what do you think India can do to make this a more seamless process?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Janvi, for that very relevant question. See, India has been pushing for greater role of the global South in the multilateral institution. And so if the BRICS is expanding and if there are more members from the African Union joining the BRICS, that is something which the India has been striving for a very long time. Indian government has said that, Africa is in the top of its foreign policy or economic policy priorities. Even during the G20, it says that Africa is the top of its priorities, and therefore the entry of African Union in the G20 was something that India was really pushing for a very long time. So I think within the BRICS, India is very keen that the African countries do join in, because why are they interested in joining? Because they have been historically excluded from the existing multilateral institutions. So they want their voices to be heard in the multilateral institutions that exist today, and BRICS offers them an opportunity to showcase their views on these issues, whether it's on reform of multilateralism or whether it's on an inclusive development, global development. That these are the issues, and I think therefore when Ethiopia and Egypt have joined BRICS, they have added more weight to the African voices within the BRICS.
It's very interesting, Ms. Berry. At this point, I would like to remind the participants who have joined us virtually to submit their questions via the Q&A option. We are going to open for audience questions soon. Meanwhile, I do have a common question that I would want to put to all the panelists, and you can take turns answering it. A uniqueness that has been brought up about the BRICS constantly in all of your interventions is the bilateral differences amongst the BRICS members, right? And even the new members, they're famously not always on great terms. But do you think then that one of the values of BRICS is coming from its capacity to convene and dialogue? Is that one of the core reasons why we continue to engage in the BRICS system? Or is there something ephemerally more specific, for instance, ephemeral or specific, that you think is encouraging countries to join the BRICS? Professor Viola, you first, please.
Okay. Could you repeat the last part of the question? I didn't hear very well.
Yes, of course. I was asking if there is a more specific or ephemeral reason why countries continue to engage, or more a general reason, either or, where countries continue to engage in the BRICS, or is it because of the specific dialogic value of the BRICS system?
Well, there is clearly the BRICS system has in terms of dialogue, there is very has a lot of value in the BRICS and in belonging in trying to become member of the BRICS. Okay, but one thing is this dialogue, and the other thing is to have common interest enough in order to reshape the global order. This is, I think, the BRICS doesn't have. And new members imply more difference, more contradiction. Okay, look, for example, the entering of Iran in BRICS. This Iran is a power that is in deep contradiction with the global liberal order. Okay, so in trying to destroy the global orders for 3 decades. Okay, of course, a lot of converging right now with China and Russia, that in terms of reshaping in an authoritarian way the global order. Okay, so I would say all these differences, there is the dialogue value is key, and it will be something like more permanent, but the capacity of coalition making in order to reshape the order is something that as many countries try to enter, and probably the countries that the more countries that are trying to enter are autocratic powers. Okay, so this is a major problem.
Yes, interesting. Yes, thank you, Professor Viola. Dr. Gupta, your views on this?
Thank you, Janvi. Really great question. And I would say, first, I would say, as Minister Jaishankar in one of his speeches said, the sheer diversity of this grouping itself makes it more inclusive. Each country has, whosoever becomes the member has a vote. And I think that itself empowers them. I think going by technicalities of it, how much it is going to function, how much it is going to deliver in terms of, any delivery, that means on humanitarian ground, on whatsoever. I think we cannot go on that because primarily the new construct should evolve. And I think as it evolves, I think there will be new, options of collaboration. But coming back to another point that I wanted to say, that for India, it will be an opportunity to re-strengthen its leadership. But in the future, I see an opportunity, see that as a problem, because there might be a situation where the founding members might contest for the leadership role. And I think the countries like India and China obviously have that kind of instinct. So I would say there are opportunities presently, but in future, there are chances of conflict as well. But I think what will matter is how we communicate.
Comment.
Yeah.
Right, how we communicate, indeed. Ms. Berry, before I come to you, we do have a question in the chat box which leans into the value of BRICS. The question is, if tensions between BRICS member states persist or even rise to hostilities, what does the panel expect as a scenario? And our questioner has given us a few scenarios, but I want you to answer the basic question, like if the tensions persist, what are the scenarios that you see playing out? Is the BRICS going to play, say, a dialogic role? Is it going to play a mediator? What is the value there?
Yeah, thank you, Janvi, for letting me know the question which is posed. But first of all, let me just add a little bit more about the forum. I think in the current context, at least from an Indian viewpoint, BRICS is, a forum of great importance, and it is not an alliance, and it is not a grouping which is to counterbalance another bloc. I remember. I would also like to quote Dr. Jaishankar as my fellow panelist, and Dr. Jaishankar had once meant that he considers BRICS as a non-Western entity and not an anti-Western entity, you know. So that is the kind of image of the grouping that India has, you know. So it has its own vision. The group has its own vision, its own agenda, and its own set of priorities. So I think what the future would be, whether this forum would get morphed into an anti-West forum, is something that would be a challenge for India to deal with. And in that vein, I would like to also answer the question that was posed, that, you know, how would BRICS deal with the rivalries? I do understand that there might be tensions, you know, among the current members. As it is, we have Iran and Saudi Arabia, which do not see eye to eye. We have Ethiopia and Egypt, which two members from Africa, which also have tensions between them. And but BRICS is not new to difference of opinions, and India and China do represent, you know, different viewpoints within BRICS, and still we have been part of the BRICS for decades, you know. So I think BRICS, the important aspect about BRICS is that within BRICS till now, it is decisions are taken on the basis of consensus. So if that format continues, I don't think there would be any problems between the members. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing us back to that point, that very important principle of BRICS, consensus, that we can continue to dialogue and discuss on issues beyond our geopolitical limitations. We do have about 15 minutes on the clock. So, okay, we have another question coming in from the audience. On the SWIFT system, right? This is, of course, of interest to a number of new and emerging members of the BRICS. Why would India, okay, while interest in de-dollarization persists and well understood for Russia, given the international sanctions against the country, why are India and Brazil willing to pursue this objective of moving away from the SWIFT system? And do you think a BRICS currency and payment system is economically and politically feasible? Very tempted to answer this myself, but I think I will concede to Dr. Gupta first on this. Dr. Gupta, you're on mute. Your opinion on why India or Brazil would support the move away from the SWIFT system or a common BRICS currency?
Apologies, I do not have economic background, but I can answer the latter part. I mean, the BRICS currency, I would say, you know, across any continent, if you take, common currencies have not worked. And
indeed,
especially looking at the political establishment of these countries, the sheer character of the BRICS members in terms of their political construct, I don't see a possibility that it's going to be a reality. But yes,
indeed.
I mean, we can speculate, but not certainly that's something that might come.
No, I tend to agree that BRICS has focused more on local currency trading rather than move too much towards a common BRICS currency. But Professor Viola, your thoughts on this coming from Brazil, moving away from the SWIFT system, a common BRICS currency, how likely is it to work? Keeping in mind, audience, that BRICS is not a common market. It is just a dialogue grouping, much like the G20, much like the G7. Professor Viola.
Okay, no, I mean, there is no, in my view, no possibility at all of the BRICS moving away. I mean, there are differences in the BRICS, of course, but a new a common currency, I don't, not feasible, okay? And moving away from SWIFT, some countries are moving away from SWIFT, certainly Russia and China, they are moving away, but Brazil, not at all. I mean, the Brazilian government, this is something very important to differentiate. The present Brazilian government that doesn't represent most of the Brazilian population, electorate, let's say. would like to move away from SWIFT and even to have a common currency, okay? But for example, the major economic social forces dominant in Brazil are not don't want to move away from SWIFT and are strong because something that is very relevant. Brazil, in the present constitution of BRICS, Brazil is a Western country. Okay, so there are anti-Western global order positions within Brazil. Okay, not majority, but there are. Okay, but this is Western anyway, in terms of values, in terms of history, in terms of the way it was built up as a country. Okay, so this is very, very important. The limit any Brazilian government that try to develop in a way that is anti-Western will be extremely inconsistent. And for that reason, it's not feasible at all. So this is, I think this is what I think about. I mean, another thing is bilateral.
Right.
You can have bilateral trade that is in local currency. This is feasible and it's good for many BRICS countries. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Professor Viola. I got a message that Dr. Gupta has to leave us for now. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you so
we
much.
hope to see you at future conversations. We do have a few more questions here. Ms. Berry, I would like to come back to you on the currency question. And then we have several new questions that have come in. I will come to as many of them as I can, allowing for time. Ms. Berry, on the question of a common currency.
Yeah, thank you, Janvi. It is a bit of a controversial issue, the issue of a common currency, which has been raised by several countries. Several experts have been talking about it. There has been a discussion on, moving towards, as you rightly pointed out, towards local currency trade. That is something which the BRICS has. The de-dollarization is also something which has been, something which has been discussed on this issue. Because as you're aware, currently the global financial system is dominated by dollar as the medium of it is the reserve currency, global reserve currency. So the world is dependent on dollar for trading, for all financial transactions. So obviously the idea for those people who are anti-West would be to move towards a de-dollarized world. So whether that is possible or not remains to be seen. But within BRICS, there has been a discussion on greater focus on digital infrastructure. And herein, India, as you know, has been a pioneer in developing the UPI, which is the Unified Payment Interface, which it has offered globally. So I think within BRICS, India can offer this technology, build coalitions within BRICS on this issue. I think this could be something which India can work for within BRICS, but I don't see a BRICS currency in the immediate future.
Yes, ma'am, you have answered the question and opened a new can of worms in terms of digital public infrastructure and how the BRICS can collaborate. Let's see if that sparks new questions. But there's a very interesting question that has come in on whether the BRICS is missing an inner organization or a permanent secretariat. Now, that is a common problem that several plurilateral groupings, I will not say multilateral, the G20 is missing a secretariat, the G7 is missing one. Does the BRICS have sufficient organization within itself to sustain itself, let me put it this way, or is the absence of a permanent secretariat going to create new pressures and fractures given the expansion? Professor Viola?
Okay, well, I mean, imagine if the G20 doesn't have a permanent secretariat that is much more powerful organization, but at the same time, much more fractured by the major contradictions and polarities of the world. I mean, the BRICS suffers the same problem. I don't see. I mean, it's in my view, it's irrelevant if the BRICS has a permanent secretariat or not. It could have. I imagine that for China and Russia, this would be, they would like this very much, okay, because they will institutionalize a kind of organization in which they have much more power than the other countries, particularly China, of course. So, but at the same time, the issue of having a permanent secretariat will not increase the efficiency, the capacity of real. Let me emphasize one thing. One thing is dialogue. One thing is statements, many statements. The other thing is the capacity of common policies to drive the world. And this is an area in which I don't see the BRICS as a major player, okay? Because there are different countries with major contradictions.
Right. Ms. Berry, your thoughts on this? Is the lack of a permanent secretariat sort of stopping the BRICS from functioning to its full capacity?
I think that BRICS has survived without an official secretariat for so many years. I think it can survive in future too. And as has been rightly pointed out, we have G20, which is a grouping of 21, if you include the African Union. And it has survived without an official secretariat. I'm sure the BRICS can also survive without a secretariat in terms of functionality, in terms of dealing with the various issues. It is something in which the focal points of each country discuss this. The Sherpas from each country are the ones which are the focal points in each country, and then they are the channels for discussion. And we have various engagement groups like the Academic Forum, where both of us have been part of.
So, yes. We do have 4 minutes on the clock and several questions to get to. I am sorry to interrupt. I'm trying to combine a few questions. There is a common question that has come on BRICS collaboration on counterterrorism. What can India expect there? And also a quick question on India-China relationships since 2020. So perhaps combining the two, and what Ms. Berry, you could perhaps answer this because this is specific to India. What are the expectations on counterterrorism given our tensions with China? And then Professor Viola, to you, the question on whether promoting the new development bank and pushing for reforms in institutions like the IMF is what are the broader political implications of that? There's a very interesting question on UPI as well, which we hope to come to. But Ms. Berry, on the counterterrorism.
On counterterrorism, I think, BRICS as a forum has come up with a consensus on this issue. They've always, in most of the statements, in almost all the statements, I don't think I've seen any statement which does not show a consensus on combating terrorism. So the BRICS countries till now have been unified in their condemning the rise of terrorism across the world, and in terms of dealing with that in a joint manner under the multilateral forum. That has been the idea. Bilaterally, countries may have issues in on dealing with this, but as a minilateral, they have developed a consensus on this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Professor Viola, on the question of NDB and its wider implications.
Something about counterterrorism. Look, this is an area where this is a clear example of complete contradiction in the BRICS Plus. Imagine Iran. Iran is a power that has promoted terrorism regionally and globally. Remember the bombing attack in Argentina 3 decades ago against Jewish institutions. Okay, so the contradiction, Iran is a promoter of global terrorism. Yeah, so it's the opposite of any. You can have a note of statement Iran signed, but this is a deep contradiction. Okay, but in relation to the new economic institutions, yes, the new BRICS bank is very relevant. This is an area where the BRICS has shown real capacity of cooperation, and the common interests are significant among all powers. The same in relation to reform of the global institutions of the United Nations system, like the World Bank, IMF. Yes, there are common interests in this reform. Okay, so those are areas in which I see common ground, real common ground. But okay.
Thank you so much, Professor Viola. I do want to come quickly to the question on United Payments Interface, the UPI. Digital payments, is that the next frontier on BRICS cooperation? Because as the questioner has identified it, it's greatly beneficial for small-scale industries. Is that where BRICS cooperation lies next, Ms. Berry?
Yeah, the BRICS countries have been talking about cooperation in the digital sphere, and it could be a new area of cooperation. As you rightly pointed out, there are various areas in which the BRICS countries have cooperated over the years. I don't know whether I'm not sure what the Indian official position is on this, but digital infrastructure is something which the countries in the global south are looking for. They are looking for the technology, they are looking for support in the infrastructure development. So I think if BRICS within itself, because what the BRICS does is first supports its own member states and then goes to the developing countries in terms of dealing with this issue. So I hope within BRICS we can go for this. Yeah.
Right. And Professor Viola, what are your thoughts on this? Can the BRICS cooperate on digital public infrastructure?
Yes, they can cooperate. Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's a very quick short answer, and perhaps the most optimistic one we've heard so far from Brazil. So that is the time for us. We've had some very interesting discussions and more questions still coming in. I do require someone from the organizing team to tell me if we can continue with the last question that has just come in. Dr. Ghimre, if you're here.
Yes, we can take last one more question because we don't have much time. So it's very short.
Ms. Berry, if you will allow us 5 more minutes of your time. There are questions on technical questions on the BRICS currency. Are the considerations going in the direction of a currency that, okay, this is a very technical question on currencies. I will have to take a privileged position on this and say we've answered this. We are not looking to have a common currency at this stage. We are looking more towards local currency trading. I hope, then these are very technical questions on the change of exchange rates and how it will impact and whether there'll be national currency fluctuations. So this is, I'm sorry to Mr. Marinos if you're listening. This is a very technical question related to common currencies, which we have earlier answered that it's not something the BRICS is looking to do. Unless, of course, the panelists, if there's anything you want to add on common currencies, national currencies, whether it'll be a fixed exchange rate. Ms. Berry, I've seen you say no. Professor Viola, anything?
No, it's okay. I mean, I have stated what I have. I mean, what I think about.
Right, right. So again, listeners, local currency trading separate from having a common currency. So let's leave it at that. Thank you so much for your participation, Ms. Berry, Professor Viola. I do want to hand it over to Professor Ghimre, who is here on any closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janvi. It was very excellent moderation and a very insightful discussion. And our very sincere thanks to the distinguished panelists for sharing their thoughts on this very crucial issue. So now let me introduce Dr. Carsten Klein, the head of Frederick Newman Foundation South Asia, and hand over the floor for his concluding remarks. First, Dr. Klein's professional career has always been an international dimension. He started working with the German armed forces, joining the foreign and the security policy sections of the parliamentary group of the Free Democratic Party in the German parliament, followed by him managing the FDP parliamentary group in 2 state assemblies. He has been a central and a very guiding figure since the inception of this webinar and always encouraging us to work with him. So with this, I would like to hand over the floor to him to give a concluding remarks for today's BRICS webinar. Dr. Klein, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Dr. Bedwin, thank you very much, especially thanks to you, Dr. Barry, Professor Dr. Viola, and Professor Strauper, dear Mr. Gupta, and of course the excellent moderation, dear Mrs. Tibati. It was really, I think, as Mr. Strauper said in the beginning, high time to discuss that. And on behalf of Friedrich Naumann Foundation, I would also thank all the participants who are participating now in this live section, but also will later on see the recorded platform of this meeting. I know that there are very many politicians, diplomats, interested people from South Asia, but also from Europe attending this. Why? Because, of course, BRICS has a very vocal and extremely important role, not only in South Asia, but as one of the platforms which needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to future building of multilateralism. And the India role was here in the focus of our observation. Thank you very much for especially giving that added by the Brazilian perspective. Both are very decisive members of the BRICS organization. You are norm-making countries in the BRICS, unlike, and one has to say that, in the United Nations systems. I think that there might be coming some impulses, and that is also in the European and German interest, for restructuring other United Nations, for example, organizations, in order to restructure, to modernize, if you like, also the system of the United Nations system. This discussion has clearly shown, I think, that BRICS has a very, very important bridge function, but not has the intention, and of course also not the potential, at least at the moment, to replace other multilateral, very important systems. Might it be from the European Union, might it be especially from the United Nations, might it be from other very well functioning mechanisms of multilateralism. And I would also again say that it is very clearly said from our Brazilian friend and colleague in the very beginning that all of the countries you are presenting here are stable democracies with very strong democratic institutions and the governments of the rule of law. And therefore, countries like India, countries like Brazil and South Asia could, should, and must be, to a certain extent, the counterbalance of other perhaps existing currents within the BRICS system. So thank you very much also for the hints regarding the shared common interests. Other multilateral organizations will remain very important. And just a few days before we see next week the German-Indian governmental consultations, which also has a very broad perspective, a very broad agenda with extremely important points. One could say it is good to have quite many good, well-functioning, well-balanced platforms of mutual understanding. So again, thank you very much from our side, South Asia office, to all of you, our participants. Thanks to the audience. Let me please and allow me to mention here also Dr. Hans-Dieter Holzmann, who is one of the heads of this BRICS discussions within the foundation. Thank you very, very much to the colleagues from our Baden-Württemberg office. I know that there are very many Germans attending this kind of meetings. Thank you very much for your particular interest. Again, thank you very much to our moderator and to our distinguished panelists. And last but not least, and allow me that, thanks to my colleagues in the South Asia office who were so extremely engaged in organizing this event. Friedrich Naumann Foundation is definitely going to foster this kind of interaction. I think there are many international platforms like BRICS, like perhaps SCO, like BIMSTEC, and others who are working here in the region, and we will also definitely shed a light on those. With that, I say again, thank you very, very much, and follow us on social media. Have a very good evening in South Asia, and best regards to Brazil. Thank you very much for attending, and seeing you soon again. Best wishes from Friedrich Naumann Foundation, South Asia. Thank you.